We get started in this evening's live, and as we talked about earlier, what it seems pretty predictable as far as XRP trying to trend down towards that 220. I mean, it's a very difficult picture to paint because I don't want to come on here every day and be like, hey guys, I know we're gonna have a reversal at some point. I think mid-November is still gonna be a very opportunistic time, but I could still see it taking some time in Q1 until 2 to get into that truly parabolic state. So I can see some pain here in the interim. And the reason for that is that I mean by the interim, I mean in the relatively near future, which has been happening. Because retail goes through a stage and it goes through several stages, but we'll get through it in just a sec because I want to make sure to do the intro before I get too far in. Just so that when someone's listening, they know which video it is. So good evening. 6:19 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. So I'll let everybody settle in, and then I'm going to get into my thoughts. Dan Marginow, Shane, and Dennis Smith, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Zone 3+ months with the XP Meteor. Crypto Cooter, good evening, and thanks for being in Tom's Zone for 6+ months with the XP Predictor, and also a very trusted mod here in the Telegram. Today built some very attractive large inverse head and shoulders. We'll take a look into all of that. We have what could be in the interim, which I think would, it's going to be tough. We'll see what ends up happening. Is that a inverse head and shoulders building, or is this ultimately going to end up looking like some kind of topping pattern to where it melts back down towards the bottom? Like, is it ultimately going to end up looking something like, here, let's go to the smaller time frame. Because we're massively, like we said earlier, oversold. Because if this plays into an inverse head and shoulders, it should tap. Probably it'll end up back testing this area. Probably around 229-ish. I hope it holds this in the interim. But as everybody during these drops is sitting there, and it almost seems like it's in the disbelief stage right now across the market. Like everybody just can't fathom the fact that right now Bitcoin's come down even another $7,000 from the top, even though gold had done that mighty reversal. You know, it's like it's the unimaginable or the unthinkable is happening when in reality, if you look how easily we got back into fear and how overbought we were, and now crypto's doing a 180, but it's not done yet. In my opinion, what would make me the happiest person on the planet if this happened? If we went down and filled this out so that Bitcoin can push to 92, because then it's going to drop out of the rising wedge that we had before into the technical target of 92,411. I never switched it. I just used this low support here to turn this into a pattern based on that 92,411. And what that ends up doing is it almost looks like if it did something like that, it could form itself almost into an ascending triangle in a sense. So maybe, just maybe, instead of a rising wedge, which initially it's going to break down out of, which it did break down out of. I don't even have that set up right there. I have it set up in a different fashion. But I think we have to pay serious attention to some kind of scenario that could play out before us like this. And then that 92,411 is also so super incredibly important because that's also a old gap area that we never filled. So I think it would be very, very interesting. And then if that doesn't hold, oh boy. Oh boy. And the reason I say, oh boy, because if you break through that 92,000 and better open up your ears, if you were to ever break through 92, there's so many businesses and corporations and Michael Saylor-esque that have liquidity that they would start getting that margin call once it gets closer to that 70-something thousand range. A lot of others would be higher. It would start a slippery slope down into the depths of a hole like you don't even... If you think the FTX collapse was bad, wait until you see what happens if some of these bigger corporation countries, SO, whatever the case may be, and they start getting they start getting margin called, or they start getting their note called, or their loan called. See, all that would need to happen for a lot of these investors. They're taking out loans against their own businesses, or some of them are just selling common shares, which is asinine. But the ones who have the credit to do it, they're taking out loans at a certain interest rate from the banks, and they're buying the Bitcoin, and they're able to do it because they're staying so far ahead of the rate of the interest payment in the loan that with Bitcoin going up, the person giving the loan isn't worried about getting paid. The first time Bitcoin drops, if it breaks 92K, in my opinion, and starts breaking down, and you see it in the 70,000+ range, you're going to get some of those note calls, and it's going to be a very slippery slope from that point down to the 10K area. And I promise you it can happen quicker than anybody can believe. And now that the government passed this regulation, or at least made it an option, yeah, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, and we have to talk about this, that now these big business, the big guy, right, the big guy, he can essentially avoid a crypto tax now, buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and instead of selling it, he can now take his Bitcoin and send it right to the ETF side. Which means he doesn't have to sell it on the market. He can just put it into the ETF side. That creates a whole nother problem. So there's a little loophole that is now kind of put into place. So I still think we're going to get this. And I don't know if we're going to go to 265 first to make this happen. I don't know. That's not what I'm here to predict. I just think we can embrace the downturn that happens before the ultimate push into alt season. Because I believe firmly that alts, aside from XRP and maybe a couple others like Chainlink and Solana, and like AV, some of the other ones like that, and then obviously take out of the equation Ethereum and Bitcoin because they're not alts. I think we've not had an alt season. XRP did, and it's faring very well. But we haven't had an alt season, so we're still in accumulation. And I say that confidently because I can just say, for example, let's see what's in front of me. The first one. Oh, for example, IOTA's at $13.68 today, 13.68 cents. It was up over $2, almost $3 in the last bull market. Algo was over 2. It's at 17.7 cents. So, I mean, you see what I'm saying? This is one that is highly on my radar, and it's not something I talk about too much right now. But much like we started looking at gold and silver in January, I'm waiting for the right moment. Because I don't think it's yet. I think they're still going to slice us in the nuts with oil. But at some point, these oil companies, if they ever come back down to these lower ranges like this, oh. So eyes open is all I'm saying. We got eyes open for the prize, just in case. We got eyes. But yeah, we just watch ourselves bleed here for a little longer. Mark Casson and Crazy Paul, welcome in. Thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year. I told you so bad. Along with 1970 Legend. And 1970 Legend, thanks for being a very trusted moderator, our resident Buckeye, the defending national champion in the house, undefeated and #1. Unlike my Michigan Wolverines, they know how to properly defend a title and stay atop. And try to actually defend it, because they may win it all again. But nonetheless, the back-to-back Big Ten champions in the house. Or national champions, I should say. But I hope you're doing well, my friend. I do. Robert Latham, welcome in, and thanks for being in Townsend for 1 month with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. Mark Casson, thank you not only for being in Townsend for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge, but also the $2 YouTube super chat. What a generous son of a gun you are. Thank you so much, Mr. Caston. He says, hit that like button for the best technical analysis on YouTube. Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. Two Ravens and Mosey here. Welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Mrs. Stott, welcome in along with Big Dog. Thank you both for being in Tom's Army 3+ months with the XP Meteor. I greatly appreciate the support, more than you will ever know. And Mrs. Stott, it's an honor and a privilege as always. Hopefully Mr. Stott is doing well as well. Solar Jeffy, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Zone for your second month with the Dusty Dallas Crypto News. Mr. Smith, Damon Smith, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Zone for your first month with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. And that is my face superimposed on that emoji badge. Circa 2019. Slightly chubbier and much less hair. Jerry Clark, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 3 years with the XP Diamond Hands badge, along with the Gatman as well. Awesome support by YouTube. Frankie Fresh, thanks for being in Tom's Army 6+ months with the XP Predictor. Hopefully, your hand's doing ever so slightly improving. And Janine, if you're watching, I give you my love. Copper Vein, welcome. I said to email, you said to email you days ago. Where do I've shared my email a gazillion times. I don't know. Strutregali@gmail.com, my friend. I've got things to do here. But strutregali@gmail.com. That's the past. And if you find your way into my email, you find your way into my email. But there it is right there. Let's see. Matt Grimes, welcome in. Syrian, welcome, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year at the I Told You So badge, and also a very trusted mod in here in the Telegram. Makes the world go round. Crypto Plumber 589, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over, what is that, 3 months plus now with the XRP Meteor. Oh yeah, there's a big FVG at 92. I've been talking about it for what I feel like is forever. Forever. CJ2 Pilot, welcome in, along with Devin. Thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years at XP 589 Moon badge. And CJ2 Pilot, you better be paying attention to the road. And Devin, thanks for being a very trusted mod in here. Says I'm going to buy so much silver at 35 when I'm taking profits on crypto. Man, I cannot wait. 35? I don't think that's technically out of the question. Let's see where I would have it. I think I was thinking more like, not far off. Thinking more like 40-ish. No, a little bit lower. Because I want to see this back test. I think around that $40 level is going to be a fair assessment. Somewhere around there. I do. I think that's going to be a fair assessment. Maybe 35. But that cup and handle, I want to see this back test now. Now, it might not come all the way back down. We don't know. Maybe it stays at 43. Maybe it stays at 45. But we've got a beautiful cup and handle. And now we're just back testing the breakout. This is going to be extraordinary when it finally goes. Extraordinary. Won't be yet. We got some interesting times coming ahead in that department. But what we see in 26 towards the middle to end again is going to knock your dick off. You think you've seen anything now? We're just getting started. It's going to be everybody who bought top heavy. They get into the disbelief again, and then they go running away. But yeah, I can't disagree with you. It's going to come close. Likely. It's on illusion. Thanks for being in Tom's Army 6+ months with the XP Predictor. Bitcoin can drop to 92K tomorrow and be right back where it is Friday, and no one would trust a single rally for weeks. Exactly. That's what I want. I want it to have another huge drop. But I feel like now would be the right time because everybody's exhausted in retail. How many times have you seen in the lives here in the last week now? I wish I had more money, but I don't have any more capital to spend on the drops. And that ends up happening because people are buying it after these rallies up. Bear market rallies in most of the alts at that. But they're buying it as it comes back down to where it started. So on any failed attempt, you always come back down and reset the pattern, and that's what we're doing. I'm not saying we're going to make new lows in the alts, necessarily. We could. If we do, I'm going to feast. I prepared for this. I've been preparing for this, and I'm not going to say what I do, but I do. I do what I do. I do what I do. I have plenty of liquidity if this does fall out right now. Did a great job before. And now all we can do is try to stay ahead of this until we get to the actual... Because in my experience in the markets, once you get into this stage where it feels like there's nothing it can do but finally reverse, it drops one more time. And because we're at the end of October, I've seen this before, right before Halloween, right when it feels like things should be shaking out. All October ends up being when everybody says, oh, it's October, it's this and that. Yeah, remember what I said coming into October? All October really is one big drop, and it only feels like you were moving up because you're always constantly climbing yourself back. But then you end up getting that disturbance by the end of the month, and it makes you kind of second guess. But then all of a sudden, by the latter half of the first into the second week, maybe the mid-second week, somehow, some way, November seems to bring brighter days. That is until Christmas, when they drop the Christmas spirit on us. And while we're opening our presents and giving, we're trying to have the Christmas spirit, we open up our tablets, we open up our phones, we look at the, well, not the newspaper anymore, I guess, but you look at your Bloomberg or whatever the case may be, and crypto's down 25%. It's the Christmas rally we always talk about that never happens. How many times have you been in Christmas and you're thinking we're about to get this Christmas rally because nobody will shut up about it for a month? And then all of a sudden, what seemed like the can't quit rally all of a sudden depletes itself for some reason by Christmas. And then right when you think you're going to have this big move, no sooner than the time you get up and you start opening your presents like a little kid at Christmas, we'll say, the market goes down, almost like you're getting a lump of coal. It's an interesting dynamic, Let's see. Heard that guy who shorted on the massive drop just shorted it again with millions. Oh, yeah, because he knows. That cocksucker knows. And you know what? It's an insider. Because of the timing. They know. It's a lot of Bitcoin. 700 Bitcoin. Worth more than everybody in this audience combined. Murphy's is going to be phenomenal. Murphy's is good. Pays a good dividend, too. I love Murphy's. Who's on board with the oil when we get into oil? Who else? How we have excitement over the gold and silver miners. How many people are excited about that side, the prospecting side of oil and gas? It's another untapped potential. It happens, it goes years and years, and then all of a sudden, if you can do it right, it's just, oh, shit. Matt Grimes, I agree with all the metrics you're looking at because my metric is saying the same thing. Not even close to hitting an alt season. That's why everybody's getting it wrong at this point. They keep saying it's over. It hasn't started. What do you mean it's over? It's over? If it's over, damn, I missed it. I mean, we still made a lot of money, but that's only because we were smart. This is getting a little hysterical, though, because I believe on XRP side, there was more selling. Was it Chris Larson sold more XRP? Somebody sold more XRP. Who sold more XRP? I'm going to sniff them out. Ripple co-founder offloads 120 million worth of XRP. Now, does that sound like something Chris Larson would do if he thought the market was going to continue to go up? I don't know. So Ripple co-founder, XRP price forecast says Ripple co-founder's 120 million sell-off sparks bearish alarms. Last time he did this, the market tanked. Remember? He essentially called the top on that big rally. People were starting to sell inside of, yeah. So Ripple co-founder, blah, blah, blah. We'll go down here and start reading. XRP shed weekly gains on Tuesday as data researchers shared evidence of Ripple co-founder Chris Larson's dumping 120 million of his XRP token holdings. On-chain data from Crypto Quant shows a massive 120 million outflow from Larson-linked wallets, aligning with a 2.5% decline in XRP's price on Tuesday. And there's the Chris Larson, the Ripple co-founder address mailings. The sell-off coincides with a visible cluster of red spikes on the chart, representing large address outflows. These outflows have historically marked the beginning of bearish phases, including the 2018 market downturn when similar movements preceded a prolonged price decline. Crypto quant analyst Martin considered Larson's distribution of XRP tokens as a potential warning signal for retail traders chasing the hype. He's cashing out. You're holding the bag, he said on X. The token has recently bounced from $2 support following Ripple's $1 billion fundraising announcement and the acquisition of treasury management company G Treasury, but renewed insider selling risk undermined market confidence. Marturn suggested that Larson may have been selling XRP in recent weeks as the red spike showed to fund the G Treasury acquisition. XRP's losses today accompany a broader decline in risk assets led by a stronger U.S. dollar. Michael Brown, a senior research strategist at Pepperstone Group Ltd, said that the path of least resistance for riskier assets continues to lead to the upside, adding that dips remain buying opportunities. Whales are listening as of Tuesday. XRP addressed holding over 100 tokens. We're rising in numbers. That is despite the Ripple-backed coin trading about 35% lower from its multi-year high established in January. That's about all I can read. So yeah, Chris Larson was the one who was selling. No surprise here. We're not surprised by that. But yeah, let me catch up in the chat. I apologize if I missed anybody. I got so far behind, I'll never catch up. Iran welcome China's dumping the U.S. bonds and buy yen. U.S. buying back the Treasury by liquidating the market. Here you have it. Sounds about right. Thank you, Edgar, says Tom's man. I appreciate it. I've been hearing that mid-2026 U.S. market will be flooded with oil. I'm interested, but looking to get more info on the potential oil play. Absolutely. That's exactly it. Sometime. So the plan would be, we got to let this, because what they always do historically before we go into an oil run is they always will cut it so cheap. Like I'm talking $20 a barrel, $15 a barrel. These stocks will be 4 to 6. Like the one I'm showing you at 20 would be like $4 to $6. So Shane says, I'm excited to learn the gas and oil part of it. I work in the gas and oil industry. Excellent. Excellent. Didn't that Larson XRP go to the Evergreen or whatever? Yes, yes. There was a portion that went there. 50 million or whatever. I think that's what it said. 50 million. Mr. Stott, welcome in and thanks for being in town. 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. Oh, they try to spin it however they can. I was just saying that was the news. That's why I read that particular one. I like how it said where it went. The 1 month, we're adding a little bit of liquidity below us, nothing crazy. Let's look at the 6 month for Bitcoin. I'm actually pretty interested today to see the 6 month. Let's see how the 6 month looks. And welcome in, Nick. Thanks for being a very trusted mod in here and in the Telegram. And for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. So we can see where the liquidity picks up. This is what I'm talking about. I feel like it makes sense to come down here, not just for the FVG that I know Nick knows about, but now that liquidity, because we came up a little bit at least, I see where we can get a liquidity pool down here. Can anybody else see this down here? I really believe it. I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I don't know if we go up at all first, but I think we're going to end up down there. It's like I've been saying since we broke down out of that rising wedge I had up initially. That target's 92K and some change. That's why we bought that big drop, and I said, take your profit if you want. I'm not going to kill you. I've made moves. We all make moves. But I promise you, like, if this happens to this night, it's going to be where everybody's chasing everywhere else until the proper spot. There's times, if you had capital on the side, you're still up 40, 50, 60, 70% from that drop. You know, I've been saying this for the last 2 days now. Oh, we weren't, I wouldn't be so, Nick, we actually, not everybody, and maybe not the very bottom, but we have different platforms where we were actually able to come, not the 100% bottom, but like you're talking like, I came within a fair amount of those wicks down to where it was able to make me a substantial amount of money on this short rebound and then be able to have a lot of liquidity now. A lot. But we'll be able to buy. Depends what exchange you're on. But there's going to be opportunities. That's why TOOBIT, I think, needs to be in your arsenal before a big drop. And even if you don't want to use it, put a few $1,000s on there to buy it. or whatever you decide to do, buy something, then just immediately send it off into the exchange you want. That's what I would do if you had a tier 1 exchange, because you got to make sure when all the instability happens, because they always do on those exchanges, you got to be able to buy it somewhere, and then you can always send it back there and deal with all the bullshit later. But I've been there. So, I mean, that's why I have TOOBIT. That's why I have WeX available. That's why, hell, I still have BitUnix open with a little bit in there, just in case I need to use it for these moments. And you can still use BitUnix. BitUnix is fine. It's just, it's becoming less and less viable for the USA, as you're probably starting to notice, like just different things. Friday it'll turn when the moon leaves Scorpio and goes into Sagittarius. We're getting there. We're getting there. I don't remember exactly what it was on the chart for XRB Healthcare. I said if there's a reason I don't talk about it when it has these big downturns, because there's no point. Where is it at? The first area, and it's been riding it for a while, ironically. Once it breaks this, I mean, we could set, in all reality, with the way this is going, we might set a pretty interesting base point here where we could, I'm not saying we're going to go all the way down there, but we could set, if I was guessing, 1.9 is fair, but I would say look at this. Something like that. Because when I'm looking at this, that's what it seems like. We form the support structure. So, yeah, about 1.9 area. That's actually really fair. Honestly, that's fair as fuck. I'm being honest. Fair. Yep. That's what I would say. That looks like a good spot. Especially with that consolidation that's going on. That looks like that's fair, because if we fall through here, it's going to have to be something substantial. Probably. And that's what I'm afraid of in the whole market. And yeah, we had major opportunistic moments where we got to do some buying and selling. And that's a tremendous run with some of this stuff. Like XRB Healthcare went from 1.7 to like 30 something cents or whatever. You live for moments like that. And now we're living for new moments, which can be old moments. Because I still own, again, 105,000 tokens. So, you know, I still kept what I needed when we do what we do. You see the market. There's certain things, we do what we do. But we were testing out Linear earlier, and I said, I don't mind. Because even though it wasn't working, we figured out the problem, because now 9 of you are part of the copy trade, which we're not in. But I bought it like 15.70 and sold it at 15.60. I did it like 2 or 3 times trying to make it work. And then we figured out that people were subscribing to my copy trade, but not actually following the copy trades. They were subscribing to my person, my XRB Future Millionaire. And now selling out, and now you can see what I was talking about. Now, sure, on paper, I might have lost $50 doing that today. But I gained a whole bunch of tokens because of how far it's dropped now. It's down like 5% again. So I have a lot of fun with group. Because I like the whole human psychology. And right now, this tells me we're going to break down probably. And if we break down, we're going to find ourselves retesting like that. I really, really want this. I know it's going to sound like I'm a dick. I want this to break down so god darn bad right now. Almost to imitate what we seen last time. I want to see the same imitation of, like, maybe not a $20,000 candle drop immediately, but maybe a 15,000 candle drop for Bitcoin, or a 10,000. I want to see the ultimate shock and awe here, because what's going to end up happening is we got so many people going long right now in a short amount of time all of a sudden, that if this market dropped out, they would shit their pants. They would shit their pants. I'm telling you, there's so many people that bought now after the rise up, not on the initial drop of this dip, I'm talking about after the entire rally back up saying, I can't miss this. And that it got into their heads again. This would be the ultimate, the most significant reaccumulation, redistribution that you could have done in such a small amount of time. It could be life altering. And I can tell you firsthand, the feeling is one of those, like, this is not the same as what I feel in gold and silver, because gold and silver is going to sustain over a period of time. I don't care if it comes back fucking 30% in the price of gold, because over time it's going to end up hitting 5, 6, 7, $8, just purely based on the devaluing of the dollar. So I know eventually that's going to go. But right now, my miners are just going to sit and it's going to go through the consolidation. I'm not giving them the tax money when I know it's going higher ultimately. So, but the 100% focus has got to be on crypto right now. We can look at miners a little bit every day like I do and talk about the pricing. And then we can also start looking at oil, because going into mid-26, this is going to be the play. Like in January of 25, the oil miners, not miners, but the gas and oil explorers, like Murphy's and all that, they're going to be the play. And then also, you're going to get into earnings when nobody's going to pay attention to the miners anymore. And you're going to thank your shining stars you got in when you did and you were able to sit through the downturn, because any kind of uproar, once we get the good earnings, and I suspect mid to late 26 is going to be the most parabolic time these miners have ever seen. And that's saying a lot from where we're at. So it's all the patience game. It's all the patience game. But I really, 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 really think, be careful, Mr. Brown, but congratulations, because you are doing it. You're doing a good job. That is one way to turn them into something. I'm proud of you. Just be very, very careful, please. I think you know what you're doing. But yeah, no, think about it, Mr. Brown. So the 30th of the month, what else is happening? Trump has a 3-day thing with North Korea on the 30th, 31st, and 1st of November. What also happens, what you're talking about, the astrology side, right? But also, we have the next assumed rate cut at that exact time. So I think this drop is lining up just like it's supposed to. Hopefully, it happens in a sustainable fashion to where we can kind of read it the way we have to. But I really believe what we're hunting, and it's what we've been saying, that $1.77 to $1.82 liquidity zone, I really do think we're trying to embrace that zone. And we'll figure it out later. And I really did like what I did for my picture for this video. Honestly, I mean, I don't usually do a lot of different things like this, but I liked it. I'm actually working on something that it's not going to cost anything, but I'm working on something, and it's almost going to be like in different episodes, and it's going to work around what we deal with in crypto. But because of the emergence of AI and just the understanding and all the other things that it can do, I can basically myself now do and I talked about it years ago about wanting to do a little bit of I'm not going to talk about it. Nope. I'm just going to do it and you guys will see later. But it's something that I can do myself now. So, it's going to be fun. I've been working with it lately. So, let's see. Oh, yeah. So I think, Chris, for the next week or so, I mean, I think it's set up for us. I think it's set up for the ones who understand and are well-versed in the charts, especially if you don't have a lot of money. The less money you have, the more you need to know the charts. And the more money you have, the more you need to know the charts. Remember how I always say, Bitcoin dominance can go up? And it's deceiving because that doesn't mean the price of Bitcoin has to go up. Bitcoin's down $500 or almost 0.5%. And the dominance chart's up almost 0.5%, which means alts are bleeding. Bleeding. And they need to bleed more. What if I told you usually the biggest kick to the dick, the biggest slice of the nuts, the biggest kick to the old grotesques is when retail is completely depleted And they sit there and go, I hope there's not another drop. I can't afford to buy. What are we hearing a lot of? I wish I had more money to buy, but I'm tapped out. Meaning they've done exactly what they wanted, and Bitcoin's still well over 100,000. Everybody's broke. What happens when Bitcoin comes to 92? Because it will. It should. I can't imagine it's going to go up to new all-time highs without clearing that particular gap. I'm almost fearful of what happens. If we drop out 15, it's why you kind of have to have the short trade mindset right now. If you're not in the, if you're like, not like, oh, I'm going to buy and sell, but you have to look for the moment of extreme volatility. Because right now we're like a fucking rubber band. No, yeah, that would be a good time period for Chris. That would definitely be a good time for XOP by the time we end up circulating around by mid-November. Early November, mid-November. But we're going through the cycle right now, and unfortunately, I think Ethereum right now, the next downturn is it's like we talked earlier. If you're in the earlier live, Ethereum looked like hell today. In the daily, it looks atrocious. That's a very bearish candle on the day before. That's engulfing on the downside. If it ends like this, I mean, where we're at right now, what reason would it have not to come down to the 200 and retest that 3,500 level to see if we're even bullish right here? There's really no reason I can think of. We already reestablished once again the 20-day on yesterday's daily candle. Now we have to come try to find some footing, which logically would say on the daily, now we need to come to the 200 since we got rejected. Not only on the 20-day, but also the 100-day on today's candle. So now we got to come to the 200, which firmly puts us at 3,500 area. Like it legitimately sets us at, let's see. Where's this trend line? Like the 200 days right there, but the trend line below it, we'll just call it 3,550. So I mean, that's still for even Ethereum, if it only comes down there, that's another 3.5% almost. About 3.5%, 4%. I mean, that's, again, maybe a little bit more, closer to 4%. So where does that leave us? Like, if that keeps happening, we're going to continue to go south. I don't trust limit orders, my friend. I never do. Like when I'm buying it, I'm not, well, I mean, I'll put it in, but I got to be there monitoring it in real time. And I know it's hard because the markets go up and down, but that's why I've trained myself to wake up a few times during the night. I'll wake up, take a walk around the house, look at my phone, make sure the markets are doing what they're supposed to. You know, it's just like, I don't know. That's the fear. And it's understandable. I can 100% understand. 100%. Oh, good. See, that's the validation from Nick, too. That CME at 92K roughly. Bitcoin was still never filled, so I could see that. Excellent. I'm glad I at least got some validation that that is still unfilled. I seen you in the audience, so I knew you could validate that. Big opportunity in the weeks, hours of the month. And then we got, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it is. Yes. Oh, are they just dropping it off, or did they drop it off? Just preparation for you never know, Julie. We're getting into that time of season, so they have the dye-free stuff for tea. I know he's not sick right now, but you never know. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the mindset of, you know, because he's going tomorrow. If they had the dye-free, and then here. Oh, he is? Oh, good. I'm at 40 minutes right now.
The ghost isn't his bed.
Is she?
I picked her out once when she was there.
Of course she did. I'm not surprised. I set limit orders last night that didn't fill on first week down. Didn't fill until we redropped after it pulled back up. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I hear from some that the shutdown in USA may last until midnight. Oh, they're using this for a strategic reason. Um, but we'll see. We'll see if we keep pushing towards war or not. To that propagation of war, that's what still scares me about the gold rise. The only time gold usually rises like this, it's not necessarily just a story. And we can say whatever we want about, oh, it's dropped far. Come on, it's still sitting here saying 4,000, almost $100 gold is still throwing me off. Just like silver almost being at $50, it's still throwing me off. Like, it's extraordinarily high. So usually the only time this kind of stuff happens when it goes this fast is usually the propagation of war. I understand this time's different because of the fact that the dollar is being devalued so quickly. And speaking of the dollar, we haven't looked at it in a couple days. 98.88. It still hasn't made this reverse run up here because I really do think it needs to make this reverse to hit this resistance. Now, I don't know if it'll come all the way to 101. Last time it tried, it got rejected. So maybe it does only come up here to the 200 it got in the daily at 99.94 and retest at 100. And then maybe it just comes right back down. But I don't know. Something feels off here. Because it almost looks like there's going to be a quick rush here. And then it's just going to go... I don't know if it's having this false push up before we have these next rate cuts. Because it almost looks like that. And then all of it... Because look how it's getting into the weekly. Pretty overbought here. Monthly's way oversold. So, I mean, it's an interesting dynamic. That's the stochastic that I'm looking at on the bottom. But you're not seeing a lot of strength here. It's almost taking like almost a channel type of rise. But we'll see how this plays out over the next few weeks. I got a strange suspicion it's trying to come up to where I put that for a rejection. Now, if it gets above there, it could take a little longer. Because if it gets above here, there's always that chance that it could melt up and they could try to, you know, make it look not so bad with our debt by, and you know, veiling our dollar just a little bit higher up. Because all across the world right now, they're trying to get out of dollars. You know, it's pretty interesting. So they're trying to prop up the dollar, but I don't know how long it can last. But I'll be very interesting to see this market over the next few days. See if, in fact, if this death cross is what is playing out, because we had a double rejection here in the daily. We could not get over this. And now we're pushing down. It would appear that the next area that it's going to try to test is the support structure right here, somewhere around 225-ish. In real time, if it stays on this trajectory. So, we'll see what it does there. Otherwise, if it did reverse back up, we'd be targeting still. It's about 266, 265. We'd still be retesting the break point where we had that 5-wave corrective down. It still needs more. And then when we finally break up, we are going to be in the 5th wave, and that's should be the biggest wave, the 5th and final wave for XRP. After this long ass correction, that should be the longest wave, the highest wave. But we're still not done. Like, we corrected up, but we're still fighting. And unfortunately, I mean, there's no volume for having such a. This is all you need to show yourself. For having such a substantial drop here, look at that daily candle. Just on this exchange, that's 65 million, right? On that gigantic drop. You're telling me on the biggest pullback candle we had, we could only pull 16 million in volume when the dump candle was 65? That's not going to get the job done. That's 25% of the volume of the drop. That's crazy. Oh, Crypto Plumber, nothing wrong with that. John Page says, being an Aussie, that's Australian and slang. I find it very funny that your government shuts down like this. It's fucking ridiculous. Oh, I mean, think about it. They're shutting down because they say that they can't agree on how to, you know, keep the budget running. Here's the funny story. They keep saying we always pay our bills on time. That's not true. We just raise the debt ceiling and print more money and go further into debt. That would be like me saying I pay my credit card off or I pay my house mortgage. But all I did, is that Oberweis? But all I did was took out a HELOC. So now I just got the money from my HELOC and started paying off my mortgage, you know, my monthly payment. Yeah, but now you took out the HELOC. Now you got even more interest, even more money in interest to pay. You got more money that's being charged interest now. I mean, come on. That's exactly what the government does every month, and the citizens buy it. The only thing that is worse than the U.S. government is the U.S. citizens. We're so stupid. And I'm a U.S. citizen, so I fall into the category. We're just so stupid. I wish it wasn't that way, but when I was like 11 years old, I was smarter than every adult around me because they all bought into it. And I'm like, are you guys that stupid? It can't be that possible. Well, unfortunately, I'm 41. It's possible because I've watched it happen over the decades. And I sit here and go, how are we so stupid? What the hell is going on? Would you believe that what we watch on TV is not the answer? It's actually the problem. It's the solution to all of our fucking drama. That's it. They give you it. And then we just, hey, did you see what blah, blah, blah said? Hey, it was the Democrats' fault. Hey, it was the Republicans' fault. Oh my God. We can't think for ourselves. Now we'll see. Here's the thing today. If this plays out in this small inverse head and shoulders here, that is possible. And if we do play out in an inverse head and shoulders here and it doesn't bust, this is what could play us up here in the short term. We can reassert this now because now we actually have a wider pattern. I think I would rather use this one to reset because we have the other one set up in the smaller pattern, but we can reset this now. We'll be able to see what it's doing. So I like doing this too. I wouldn't necessarily put it in a channel. I would do something like this. It's almost like, remember Mario when you were a kid? The Mario flag? So the question is here now, when it comes down in here, now I know 225 was an area. You're going to see it. Yeah, so I mean, is that area going to hold? It almost looks like that's where we're going to come to, at least in the interim. Because I feel like when I'm looking at these charts, and that doesn't mean we can't have a bounce up. That doesn't mean we can't. Because we're within that wider range. But it looks like as we fill these out, like when I look at IOTA too in the same perspective, it almost looks like we're building something like this. And I only drew it out a little bit because it's not far enough. But I just wanted to kind of get a short look, which means that it puts it somewhere about 12.3 cents on the net. Well, maybe a little bit lower on this next tap. No, that's fair. 12.3. So I'm starting to look at it like that. Like maybe this is the consolidation. Maybe this would be enough because we're so oversold. But now we have to see how we are when we get there. Since we got a rejection over the top. Unless it's an inverse pattern and this is setting up like this. But we would need to get a violent rebound here. So we can be a little opportunistic or a little optimistic and be like, hey, maybe we're going to get that rebound on this little inversion here across the board. And maybe this is how it pushes us into the oblivion. Epic at 84.6 cents. It's one of the early outliers right now. We'll see if it does, in fact, break this 85.42 and start to melt down a little bit. Because this is right on that structure. And if it breaks below it, well, it already doesn't look great. Death cross here. Never got enough steam to even break through. Daily time frame's got plenty of room in the stochastic and RSI to come down. Breaking bearish in the stochastic again. The RSI, not stochastic RSI, but just the RSI is making a beeline for oversold as well. Weekly time frame, there's not enough evidence. Well, I mean, oh, wait a minute. There is now. Good. The weekly's oversold. I forgot that it had enough evidence now. Weekly's oversold, but it's still got to come down in stochastic RSI. But the regular RSI is making a beeline still for the oversold. There's not enough steam right now. And this is great, but we could theoretically bounce. If this fell to worst case scenario, you'd be looking at 16.47 cents. If this fell out and it legitimately wanted to, you could see a scenario where that happened. There is just no volume on the bounce back. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens because there is a scenario here like we talked about in the earlier live where we could have a bounce back. But But like Axelar is down 7%. I mean, there's some early outliers that are just kind of falling off here, which is pretty interesting. Maybe that's just an overzealous fall off, because obviously that could be the case. It'd be interesting to see what happens here in 52 minutes, to see what happens on this next daily candle. My son is starting to wake up from his nap, so I'm going to be going in there in a second to just see how it's going. Linnea is down 5.2%, so we'll see how this reacts. Another one of these that are at the bottom of the support structure. Now, we talked earlier about 1471. Came down pretty damn close to 1471. Just hit it earlier. Yeah, 1483 area. What's he doing?
He's still shaking.
Okay, I'm going to end
Waiting
this.
for overnight to be.
Yeah, no. I'm going to go out there and grab it. But everybody, I'm going to call it a day because my son's waking up. I really appreciate everybody. Thank you all so much. Christopher Brown, thank you so much for the $10 donation. And also being a very trusted, being in Tom's number for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens, says, thanks for showing up every day. Your technical analysis has helped me grow my knowledge and portfolio. Much appreciated. I really appreciate the pay it forward mentality as well. I'm glad that I could help. Really, I am. Thank you so much. Oh, I know, Crypto Kuda, I had to pay. Well, that was earlier. That was in midsummer and then from earlier in the year. But yeah, it's been interesting. Fed announcement was a bull trap, then dump, and then send it. I kind of like that. Kind of like that. So if you do, guys, I'm just saying, the whole message in this live, if you do see a drop that is in excess of 20%, don't be afraid of that drop. Don't be afraid of that drop. I don't know what's going to happen in the micro here, just as far as are we going to retest higher or whatever the case may be. But who knows? Maybe we just break out all of a sudden, right? We get some volume in, but don't be afraid. This is not the time to be afraid. This is the time where you have to keep your wits, and this is the time of opportunity. So remember that. Keep practicing that.